point it's tilted. And it's not supposed to be. It's tilted because of what was done to Tara and what was done to Gaia, which means all the little balls within the bigger ball are tilted at the wrong axes, which means whenever you try to vertically run your pillar of power, it doesn't work. The balls are stuck because they're at the wrong axes to each other and they repel each other. That's why we've been down here for so long. Looks like everybody's coming to join us, too. Okay, let's see. All right, just let me finish these real quick. Epsilon, Eartha pass. So in density 1, we have the Thetan pass, Epsilon pass, and Eartha pass. All right, that would be 1.5 to 2.5. What? Yeah, okay. You can do that up a little bit. Not too high yet. That's good. Okay. So we have here, the Thetan pass, the Epsilon pass, and 2.5 to 4.5. That would be here to here is considered the Eartha pass of passage, that part of this Iridon passage tube in the inside. And then we have in density 2 the Terran passage, which runs from 4.5 to 5.5. So this part's the Terran passage that was taken over by the Budhara during our Morocco period. We have the Procyon pass, which is 5.5 to 6.5, and this is where we have a whole connection of messes that don't belong there that have to do with Sirius C and Sagittarius A, and Sagittarius A star and Procyon, which are connected to pieces of Polaris, which is Gaia, and it's a mesh configuration that is the beginning formation, and now it's almost complete, but it was the beginning of the formation of the Metatronic demon seed configuration here, where there are literally stars blown apart to make smaller stars in order to hold parts of the shields, in order to pull them together into trying to build on the Vecca level, the demon seed. They'd already had one here, but they needed a bigger one to take the whole Vecca out. So up above there in density 3, we get up to 6.5. From 6.5 to 7.5, we have 5.5 to 6.5 is a Procyon pass. 6.5 to 7.5 is a Giant pass. So this would be 6.5 to 7.5. This little segment here is the Gaian passage or the Giant passage. We've got the Orion pass, 7.5 to 8.5, 7.5 to 8.5. So that's the Orion pass. They call this the Gaian Orion passage, basically, because it's so close. But when you're talking like many, many, probably millions of miles of height here, it becomes significant. You know what I mean? It's just like a little space on the, not even a centimeter or two between some of them, but it's quite a distance. I don't know what the distance translation is, but we're talking universal sizes here. Okay, and then we have the Lyran passage has 3 segments to it. It basically runs 8.5 to 12.5, which would be 8.5 all the way up to 12.5, right? But there's segments to it. You have the Vega Pass, 8.5 to 10.5, 8.5 to 10.5. That's the Vega Pass. Avion Pass, 10.5 to 11.5. You get 10.5 to 11.5. And the Aramatena Pass, which is 11.5 to 12.5, and that's what takes you through the Eka. Right? So that's when we refer to the songs that we were given for Morocco. These are the songs that begin bringing in the tones or the keys that have to do with opening those levels of the core passages of the Iridon passages, and they will still work. All right, those songs, just because they've compromised the outer aspects of these passages, as long as we still have density 1, where we're going to be able to turn around the Taran and begin to anchor it into the hubs, that will be enough to purge any distortion and actually turn it back around when it comes down here. So by using those songs down here, we're actually healing what's coming down reversed and turning it back around as it comes through. So when it comes back through into us here, we can accumulate the tones of our density 2 and density 3 and part of density 4 selves that we couldn't access otherwise. This is how our higher selves are coming down to visit. They're riding the tones in. And so when we use those songs, it's beginning the process of riding our higher selves in to here, so we can then go out through the hub hosts that go out through the Edons. Remember, the hubs, again, cross through this way. There's one, and another this way. The hubs are sets of 48 cathargrids, actually, 48 cells, which I'm not going into hubs right now. There's a whole other chapter to do on hubs. They're not even putting hubs in K2-3. That's for K4. But this is, I just wanted you to understand where some of the technologies you're using, where exactly they go, because we finally have the exactly on that one. I was trying in Morocco to get, like, I could get up to about here, and then it's like, okay, where does which one break off? I don't know, but we've got those now. Next one. This is what? Counterpart, yeah. Okay, this one is basically showing you, if you look at how these lines come over, because someday you'll see these diagrams up close where you get to actually look at them. The lines coming over here are just showing you those dots, and they're just showing you the segments of this passage here, right? So this list here goes with this, which is a PCM grid in its usual start spin position. And up here, you'd have the same, but they didn't name them. They didn't name what the particulars were. But they have the same breakdown in the PK primal light field. Now, this next graph just shows you the same bit of thing, that there does exist a set on the parallel side under normal conditions. Now, the parallel side, PKA, fell in 2003 into Isadrak, so it literally doesn't have its gates anymore. So its passage is cut off at this point. It's like an arm that is broken off. But these down here, if you did straight lines right over, across, right, to the dots that connect, would show you the same increments in the PKA passage. So this is just meant to show that you have the same setup. These would be the parallel ones on each side. And just to familiarize you, I can't talk right, with the fact that we have Iridon passages, which are the core passages that lead between the spheres and are the core of the pillar of power, which are the chambers that the cells slide up and down on to phase and spark to allow for eternal life system. In the non-eternal life systems, anything built on the Metatronic seed atom is not capable of running the pillar of power. They are stuck. The balls are stuck, always separated from each other. They can never combine. And that's why they will always have polarity, because they can never reunite the consciousness into the third element of one that the two came out of, whatever the polarity is. So they're always stuck in a state of duality and polarity. Next one, please. I should probably move faster if we're going to be done for dinner time and I get to the good stuff. This is good stuff too, though, but you need this. Yeah, I'm doing all right. All right, this is the beginning of getting a little more clarity on some of the earlier, really scribbly diagrams that had to do with where the arc gates were, all right? And I did have a rough one on where the arc gates were, and then said, yeah, and up in this corner, the Polarian ones do the same thing. So we left it at that. To see it a little more clearly, this is again in the start spin rotation. So we're looking at PCM universe here, density here, that would be ours, and the PKA side here, that's like in one that's not fallen, right? The arc gates were set up this way, where you have arc 1. The arc ones, by the way, are these shaped ones, the what do you call it, hexagon shape, 6 shape. And the shapes that I'm using here are just to distinguish one from the other. It's not that one's hexagon shaped and the other type are diamond shaped. It isn't that. It's just to show you, without having color and all sorts of other fun things to play with, to use forms where you can see when you look at it quick which ones are arc gates and which ones are Polarians. So the arc gates are having the 6-sided shape. You have arc 1, arc 2, arc 3, arc 4, arc 5, which links the two 5s, right? And these are the Gruals on those other things. So these are linking the PKA and the PCM sides together. You have arc 6 and arc 7. And this is interesting too. You have arc 8, but then you have arc 10 and arc 9. I'm like, wait a minute. If you're looking at a Cathara grid, you have 7. You should have 10 up from 7 and 9 up from 6, right? Usually. What these do is kind of fascinating. Under certain circumstances, they were meant to allow for, if there was a certain amount of fall taking place in these systems, in either one of these Vecca quadrants, they would allow a combined quantum to occur between the two in a natural order, where these would first open. They would open this pillar within, these are called the Shalaya passages. You have your laboratory passages, and then there's the Shalaya passages. The arc gates run the Shalaya passages, and under certain circumstances, when these gates fully open, they pull down, right, and up, And this takes the imprint of the gates that it has over here over this way, and these come over this way, and this stretches out and becomes a Cathara grid that runs right here, where it creates a living light cell that can still have the ability to phase in to the core if the others get stuck and they're going to fall. Now, the only way it could phase in is if it has a partner. Now, normally, you would have this PCM quadrant and this one, under normal circumstances, would phase together, and they would form one, and then the same would happen with these two, they'd form one, and then they'd come together in the middle. That's how they would contract into the center for recharge and rebirth, and then they'd come back out again into this configuration. There was so much damage done to these grids that they were never going to be able to phase together again. But the Ark of the Covenant gates, the Ark of the Covenant of Paleodor, was a promise made by the Paleodorians that are very connected to the parallel Eka and the Adonai side, that they would assist in healing it, and if it couldn't be healed, they would at least get whatever Christic remnant out that they could and bring them home, or bring them, well, they're thinking of bringing them over there, but it turns out they're going to bring them, everybody's going into Eden, because for us to contract in, they have to come in with us. A starfire takes them both in, and then expands them both out into rebirth. So they had to agree to allow their systems to go through rebirth as well as ours in order for us to have our hubs open and do starfire. So what we basically have, this gate set here is the Ark of the Covenant gate set. And if you notice, we get up to here, this does a flip. When these activate, these actually flip around, and what they do is put a torque spin on this whole Cathara once it pulls into the center, and they open up on the other side. So they will take you through into the Adonai side. And these will do the opposite from the Adonai side into the Ettore side. Well, I should call it the Ettore and the Le'adore side. We're on the Le'adore side. There, the parallel Akasha and Ekaveka is the Le'adore side. So these will take you from Le'adore into here. They also go both ways. They're almost like a revolving door. If you think of a Cathara grid, it pulls together and then spins. And you can spin it to go over that side or spin it to go over this side. When you get them both going together is when it allows the return to the garden, to the Edens, a return to the inner. Because if you just do one, it can get you from here to here, and it can get you up into the Rama passage where you have some options. But it can't get you into full starfire, a rebirth cycle. That requires the two coming together as if they were a normal starfire cycle and coming together into the center in order to rebirth back in. And this is where encryption becomes important, because in order to do a starfire, like I've said, you have to have the encryption of what is in the outer already in the flames in the inner. But there is that one little chance that you can get it in, riding on the arcs, where the arc gates can be used to take the encryption back in. What we're going to be doing is when a hub pulse, for instance, if we were in this axis when we're doing it, we're not though, we're over here. But our hubs run this way. Hub 12 is here. Hub pulse releases its pulse. It would normally go into gate 12, which is up under here someplace, right, to SG12. But the indigo shield is going to interface and allow it to go into arc 12. All right, so it will run the arcs. From arc 12, it'll come down and back into here, which is the pillar 13, where pillar 13 right now, Ruche pillar 13, has been activated, and Ruche pillar 13 is strong enough to hold it. It will take the encryption of everything around the arc 12 gate and bring it into the hub, and then as the circulation starts, it will allow the arc gate to be used in replace of the closed. You have to close the regular stargates to do this. That's what gate lockdown means. Right? At the same time, it means any wormholes, unless they want to have their contents and everything on the other side of them fried, need to close their gates too. So that's what we're looking forward to, and it's these gates and what we're actually going through when we get to the point of starfire. Right now we're going into tachyon activation, which is the beginning point of building the keys that will allow for the final swing, where these arc gates and these polarian gates can come together, form the balls, pull together to the inside, and that point is going to be the point where the ones who are hosting into the Edon go in, and the ones who are going Calfall will fall. That fall is going to happen at this axis, because right now our PCM is at this axis, and it's going to get stuck at this axis. Where it will be December 2006, December 21st, 2006, is the axis it will stay on. It's not going to be able to make the swing any further. And that doesn't mean that that's when we're going to go into Starfire. We're not. But that's where they're going to ride, where the PCM is going to ride. It's going to be held by, if you look here, we have the Arc 9 and 10, and we have 11. And Arc 12 is way up here. It's pushing into the Polarian side, right? Well, if you look down here, where we have our Arc 8 gate here, we have E1, that's the Brennoy gate, right? And right down in here, we have a piece of it called Tellus that had, was a broken piece of Brennoy. We are reclaiming that. The Guardian races are reclaiming that. The other guys don't need it. They have to close it, or it's going to be, or they're going to fry themselves with it. So they're quite gladly saying, "Here, go ahead, fine, take it. You can have it." So they're closing their Tellus gate, which means it can be reintegrated into Echo 1 via this gate here, Polarian 12. The Polarians can open Polarian 12 to hold this mess together, which will allow this to, even though it's going to fall, when this PCM falls, it will be able to catch here and hold. So there's a process of the building of the tachyon fields that will be necessary for a gentle separation, hopefully, if it all goes well, to take place. And that's basically the project we're working on. That is what the mission, it is different than Christos' realignment mission. That was fix it. Now it's, I don't know what you call it. It's more than fix it. It's not fix it. Yeah. It's not even save what you can even. It's let's rebirth. Yeah, I don't know. There's something that it is that I can't put my finger on yet that's really good. It's better than just salvage what you can. It's exciting. It's a homecoming like we wouldn't be having for millions and millions of years. Even the indigos, most of us, we'd end up over on the other side and have to go through, and we'd always get service jobs. We always do that, always get stuck there longer than we wanted to, like I always get stuck on graphs much longer than I want to, right? Yeah. But we get to go home and visit our families, particularly those, I think, of the Adonai indigo lines, have missed the ones from the other side hugely. And there is a homecoming that we're so close to now that it's really a joy. And we can bring a lot more people with us that we don't have to personally carry. Because before it was getting down to how many can you hold in your personal shield. And it may come down to that. And don't overestimate yourself because you'll take all of you down. You know what I mean? Now, because of the waves that are going to be being sent out through these structures, through these chambers and passages from the Eden levels, all we have to do is give them a little spark, like you do with an ordination, and then it's up to the person's whole beingness and whoever they might know on the inside. And there's a lot of people in these universes here that have very, very good family and friends from the Eden levels. And we're going to see a lot more people making it through than we thought we would. And what's nice is the Metatronic virus bit, you know how that was being accelerated, the Budhara retrovirus? That needs the wormholes to operate. Yeah. What it means is if it has started to accelerate your own Metatronic seed atom collapsing and doing its thing where it's irreversible, it's going to, first of all, it's going to stop it from running each harmonic as soon as they shut, like they're going to be shutting a gate tonight because there's a pulse coming in tomorrow that they don't want to get hit with. So that's the 11.5 one. They're going to have to shut down from high to low, which means the more noticeable bits of Metatronic mess that you might have, like D1, 2, 3, 4, will be last to go. But the stuff that's killing you worse that you don't know is there, from like the 11.5 down, that will start to purge. What it means is we have a chance to override the demon seed, because the demon seed bit is going to start to come apart on density 3. Right? Now, as we progress, we do have a chance to actually heal parts of our bodies that are connected to those. We don't just have to grab the density 1 body and run. We're going to be integrating ourselves real fast and trying to reverse the mutations. But this gives us a chance because it's slowing down the whole Metatronic process. that, even though the gravitron is doing its thing, it is slowing it down now. The gravitron's still going to go because once you set it in motion, it has so much torque that you can't stop it. It's just going to tilt on its own even if they don't pull it. So that's why they're handing it over for it to be pulled into the Eka alignment so it can be held. Because they're closing the gate that they were using to pull it, that they were going to use to suck everything through. So great, you're just going to let it go and it's going to go, great. We'll be really dizzy by the time this is done. That's why you can't just let the gravitron go and close the wormhole behind it, because you're going to send the Eka spinning in reverse rotation until it probably just it implodes on itself very quickly. So there has to be an interface, like, okay, somebody catch that spiral. And I do believe that's the Hathor command. Not the Hathars, but the Hathor command. Now, the Hathor, by the way, are the Ha-Tatwars. All right? Just like we have the Tauren, T-A-U-R-E-N, the Tauren creates Tatwars, which are light units. So Ha-Tatwars are part of the hub light units. So this is where words like these come from, too. Just I'd throw that in there. Alrighty. Next one, please. I think that's enough. That's arc gates, Polarian gates, chambers, passages. Got there. It'd be so great in color. You may actually be able to see what I'm talking about. Because I look at it and say, what lines are what? This is just to get rid of some of the background, to show you a little bit more closely. You have the arc gates, you have the Polarian gate sets. This is showing you the Eka monadic pillars as well, the Ruche pillars of the the Akasha level Ruche pillars. Note this is like later when you have these graphs, you can look at them and see how they interface with these gate sets. And if you remember monad's phase, where you see a monad with its Ruche pillars in the center of each of its balls, you have, say, Ruche 10, Ruche 11, and Ruche 12. Well, they phase, right? This means that there are pillars phasing through these gates. This has to do with tachyon cycles and stuff. This has to do with building enough keys in order to allow these gates up here to trigger open, to allow that to stretch, so that these pull in and they become balls and they pull into the center. So it's all connected. It's a very, very sophisticated process. I look at it sometimes, I just want to cry, both of relief and of agony, of having to explain this even to myself. I trust it because I just know. I mean, I feel this stuff, and I remember there's like ancient, before I was ever here, memory, that homecoming memory that I feel. And I don't need to convince myself at this point. I just know. I feel it. I know it's the truth, and I accept it as my truth. You don't have to do that, and that's why I do try to explain, to give people at least a chance to say, well, it works like this as far as I understand it. But it is really, really sophisticated. How it's supposed to work, even when it's working well, is quite amazing. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful living structure of creation. It's an amazing, the cosmos is an amazing living organism, conscious, intelligent. It's a direct manifestation of God's source, and we're a part of that. I wonder what part, like little cells, Like I have a feeling like each little cell in your big toe is probably really big compared to our relationship to the whole. But we're just as important as the biggest one. That's how Source looks at all of us. Source even though structure is hierarchical in terms of frequency, it is not in terms of value. All right? The smallest and the largest are loved equally by Source. They are valued equally. And beings that are not stuck in polarity consciousness understand that. So they'll take small roles or big roles. They're willing to be small life forms or big life forms. They'd be an ocean or a raindrop. It doesn't matter, because they know they're all sacred. And they don't treat lower beings as lower beings. Lower simply means you're running a different frequency than I am, not you're below me kind of stuff. So there's a whole level of beauty that goes with these teachings. And I really can't wait till we all get to go home and go back to those classes again, where we get a refresher by people who've been living it. Because it's been so long since the Christic model has actually been embodied here that it's almost a distant memory that hardly anybody can remember. There's so much lip service to Christ and to Allah and to Buddha and to a whole bunch of them, and nobody feels it anymore. They're reaching, but they don't know what they're reaching for anymore. I guess the one reason I will always stand behind these teachings, even if all sorts of people in whatever movements really can't stand me because I just won't shut up, is these are the freedom teachings. They're taking us back to the original teachings. They don't care what religion you are. If you want to do religion, fine, but you do God first. Perhaps. Is your book more important than your connection to Source? And that's unfortunately what is happening with so many of the religions. because you're in this room, it shows that wasn't enough for you. And I'm so glad you're here with me, because even if I was just standing here all by myself, I probably wouldn't talk very loud, because I'd probably be locked up somewhere. See, if it wasn't for all you guys listening to me and saying, yeah, that makes sense, they'd probably just have me in a loony bin somewhere by now. Right? She talks to people no one sees. Really? Yes, hello. Yeah. Well, they're really there. Next one, please. Yes, please. But the thing is, where I come from, everybody does. Yeah, seriously. Everybody's psychic. Everybody sees things that you don't see with necessarily this level. You see with other levels. Telepathy is like normal. External language is very rarely used. It's why. So it's all relative what normal is. This here is showing you, beginning to show the ball structure that goes with the bones of the Vecca. This is, again, still the PCM side, just to show you. These bits are, what are they? They are the Hava, yeah. These are the Hava cells, the lower density cells. These are the big ones that are around the outside. These are called the Hava. These are called the Have cells. So you have the Hava bodies, right? This is part of those 30 diagrams that it got really complicated once you got off the Akasha level, and all of a sudden you had hundreds of balls running around all over, and they had to have names, and they do have names, and I couldn't figure out which was on first because it was all coming in like pieces, like the transmissions do, and I was like, all right, which ones are Havas? Which ones are Haves? Then, of course, we have Havens and Havens. Yeah. Yeah, but first we'll start with the Havas and the Haves, which are the higher light ones. They're the primal light fields, and the lower density ones are the Havas, and the Haves are the higher ones. They're kind of like the higher and lower, what become the heavens, as you'll see as we go on. This is to understand, too, that when we talk about the Trivecca light unit. Now remember, this is actually a double. When you think of we've talked about the biad before, which is actually two sets of three in this configuration. It's two Taran sets together. You'd have 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. But because these two are in the same place, you only see the one in the middle, unless you're looking at two spheres. You could do that with artwork, but with this kind, it's hard to do. So basically, you're seeing 6 cells here. Okay. And these would normally phase. Do their thing there. Okay, yeah, next one. Yeah, I want to move through these and get someplace. This will help to understand what we're talking about with the Taran and with the fall. And when we go cal-fall, because it means these axes break and they infall. The other way, they would have outfallen, compacted together this way and become suck vortices that would have sucked the other living life fields around them, and they would have spun out down like free radicals down into the holes that were creating these structures, the black holes that were creating these structures. Oh yeah, this one's a fun one. Whoa. These were the ones that were getting a bit like, okay, who's on first? And I actually found them. They're still scribbly as far as the words, but this is dissection here of the bodies in order to see what the parts are. And this is what you just looked at, but only 2 of them. This would be the density one in its star positioning, in the PCM universe, and the PKA primal light field, right? And then you'd have the other one going over here and the other one here. But this is just taking a look at 2 of them. This would be the PCM Hava, yes, lower. This would be the PKA Have. Now it gets fun. This is what I couldn't figure out where the words went. I saw what the balls did, but I didn't know what to call anything, so I couldn't put these in the K23 manual at the time. I'm just getting this information now of how to label these. All right, we won't even get into the ethos and the eros. Remember ethos and eros from K23? Yeah, they're a whole other set on their ethos and eros, Cathara grids, which there'd be 4 of those, but that's getting into the Akasha level, so we don't need to worry about that for here. Let's just look at our quadrant, PCM quadrant, and the other PKA primal light field quadrant, and know that there's the other set that go this way. What we have is the Hava and the Have, the lower and the higher, the density and the primal light. Then we have, this is the density 1 shield. Remember our shields, our 5 shields? We have the ethos shield here. That's the one down below our feet. We have density 1 shield, and the Iumbi would be there. Density 2 shield in the Azure. Density 3 shield and the Rajna. This would be Cathar 12, right? This would be the density 4 shield. And then at the 12th point, you'd have the primal light field grid starts up there, right? So again, you'd have the primal light field shield here. Then you'd have the, I think they go polaric, acadic. Why did they do that? I'm not sure how they even number these. I haven't looked at these in a while. But it's the same concept. You have the density, technically it's density 1, density 2, density 3 coming down upside down, but we don't have to do that either. What's important to see is that you have, in Cathara terms, you'd have K13, 14, and 15. And then triadic 1, triadic 2, triadic 3, polaric 1, polaric 2, polaric 3, and acadic 1, acadic 2, and acadic 3. From the triadic 1 and up, you're dealing with primal sound fields. You're dealing with primal light fields here. There's another diagram that's not even done yet that starts here with the center at 8 that gives you the 15-dimensional time matrix diagram and shows how that fits in too. So this plugs in, but we're not going there here. First, we're going to understand our bodies. We've talked about radial bodies, the density radial bodies, and we've talked about Huva bodies. Now, I've always seen Huva bodies and radial bodies all lined up on the same point, center point. Well, they are when they're activated. What we've got is density 1 shield, density 1 radial body, which is called a Haven. You have density 1, density 2, density 3, density 4, Havens. And then you have density 5, density 6, density 7, density 8, Havens in the primal light side. They are the radial body levels. These are what become the flame bodies when they're fully activated. Now, when they're not activated, here is how the Huvas run. These inside of here are the Huva bodies. So if here is your density 1 shield, that means you have a little Cathara grid here that's your density 1 Cathara grid, right? And this is the bigger Veka Cathara grid that they're all a part of. Now, one set of bodies. Can we pull this up just a little bit, honey? Please, would you mind doing that for me? I didn't have time for the labels, but I can show you. If you look at one circle, one body, right? Say this is density 1. That's the Iumbi. This is density 2. That actually hits the Azure, right? Top of that radial body. The bottom of it hits Cathara 1, which would be the 0-point lock. Okay. The Huva that goes with this Haven radial body, density 1 Huva, is down here. That is the density 1 atomic Huva, or atmic. You can call that one atmic. Let's go atmic. Yeah, atmic. Up here, that's this one. Up here, you have density 1 etheric. But the way these run through each other, when you get the density 2 level of the density 2 Haven, you have density 2 atmic running through density 1 etheric. So a Huva body is an etheric and an atomic put together. It's the etheric of the one below with the atomic of that one on that level. All right? So they stack that way all the way up, so they're double. Right? Now, when you activate flame body, what you're doing is actually bringing this and this together there. And at the same time, there's a counter reaction that takes place up there, where as you pull this Huva up to here, and it ends up here, and it pulls part of that one down to here, and you end up with this, but the density 2 one's still there, right? But you end up with a circle here as these two come together, as you pull the etheric one and the atomic one together there. It also happens up there at the acadic level. And then as you do density 2 here and pull the density 2 ones together here, you end up with the polaric level. And then when you do density 3, you end up with a triadic level. And finally they come together in the center, and you're progressively, these Hava and Have, I get tongue twisted with these. The Hava and the Have, progressively, as this one pulls up, right, as these two come together, that's fine. When the next two come together, this pulls up into here, and this pulls up. So you have these moving up, these cells moving up too. And what it does is a segment by segment contraction into the center. And at the same time, you're having the same thing happening. It's syncopated, though. I'm not sure what the pulse rhythm is, but it's syncopated between the pillar that's running this way. This is the pillar of power. And our huva bodies are here. This is our flame body. This is the whole process of all those pieces that we've talked about. Here's where we've got huva 1, density 1, huva, density 1, huva 1, density 2, huva 2, huva 3, density 3, huva 4, density 4, huva 5, density 5. Look where this is. All right? You have, you have haven, density 1, haven, right? Density 2, haven, density 3, haven, density 4, haven. And when you bring these guys down, you end up with their density 4, haven, here. So this is actually a double. That's the double-double. When we look down at the havas again, the hava body, we've got the eartha hava, the tara hava, the jaya hava. No, it's not Jehovah. It's only when you twist the sound tones a bit that you get that. See, these are where these names come from. Anybody that tells me, first of all, that I've got a jealous, angry God that's going to get mad at me if I even think about anything else but what it said in this book that it swears it wrote. Wait a minute, why is that God so immature that it gets jealous and angry? That's a completely immature spiritual response. Give me a break. You know what I mean? These names, Jehovah is the name. It's Jayahava. All right. There's also other ones that where you get into the yahs and the das. We got Yahwahs and all sorts of things, but not Yahwehs. I mean, these sounds are twisted. All right. Some of the sounds are used as they are. Others are twisted just a little bit to come up with different names that are used as the creator gods in their creation stories. What they're talking about are fields of consciousness that each one of us have a part of our anatomy, and so does the cosmos. All right? There are creator gods that are fallen. There are fallen consciousness, just like there are sick criminals in state hospitals in places like, in the States. I don't know if they have state hospitals here, but they do in the States. All right? But, they're called quarantine black hole systems in the cosmic structure. And, I know we came from a place where we had a place called Farview State Hospital, and it was for the criminally insane. And, they took good care of them and make sure they didn't hurt anybody. It's kind of like quarantine. Quarantine is a natural result of the consequence of energy usage in this system. Source doesn't have to point fingers and make judgment. It set the creation in motion with consequence. If you worked within the natural framework of creation, did not abuse energy, this was a system built on love and based on eternal life and fairness and fair energy exchange, not freebies. Remember, it's the fact that what keeps it eternal, I said this in the beginning, what keeps life eternal is the fact that the first Partakai created a phase unit that could come back together, spark, double the quantum, make a replica of itself, bring that back to Source and give Source something back, and then Source would send a backflow return. And the backflow return would make a bigger thing that came back to Source, and that would make a bigger thing that came out. It is a balance of give and take. Source didn't say, here, give, drain me, blow me up, turn me into black holes until I'm gone. No, Source knows only one thing. Source knows itself is eternal, and it knows everything as love. And because it is eternal, it does not know how to create anything that is not eternal. But it understands the concept there are things that could be experienced as such. So it allows for free will. But set in motion within the structure of creation is the backflow and backflow return concept. That is the difference between Christic and false Christic. And that is why we keep teaching what we're teaching, to explain this difference to you. Because if somebody's saying, oh, I'm a light worker. Well, if you're saying you're a light worker, great. Just make sure you know which light agenda you're serving. Are you serving Shona light outfall? Are you serving Calfall infall? Or are you serving genuine Christic light that is based on the Triveka, not the Biveka 2 unit? It's based on the 3, the Trinity, which has the capacity to phase, spark, send gifts back to Source, and then Source sends more back out again. And it's a continual, perpetual motion system of loving and giving and receiving, and not taking and taking and taking, where you end up with polarized takers and givers until one loses it and destroys the other. All right, so anyway, that's my lecture on difference between Christic and anti-Christic. So I throw that in there with with the body structures. Anyway, on to the next one. It's probably getting late, so I want to get to the good stuff. See, I don't have any of the labels on these, and they're getting worse as we go, as like labels, we're no time for labels. But I at least got the pictures down enough, I hope, to bring it a little bit more real as far as the abstracts that I was trying to explain to you, because they're not really abstract. They're very, very technical processes we're involved in here, to the point where I really wish they'd just hire somebody up there and just send them down. They could stay at our house. I mean, really. Use the car, whatever you need. Just please, you go teach this. Yeah. By the way, we would all like to thank the people who are doing the modules. You're doing a wonderful job, and just thank you so much. We don't have time to do this stuff, and you're taking stuff that is so hard that even we kind of go, what did we just teach? Right? You're helping people to be able to understand this, and I just wanted to thank you while we were on that subject. Anyway, this is just really quick showing you the 7 higher and 7 lower heavens. We have the primal light fields that form the higher Have, 2 Have cells. Each one has 1, 2, 3, and then that 4th one, it's a double, right? It says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not counting hoovas, by the way. I'm counting the big ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. They would be they're in the Have, so they'd be the 7 higher havens, right? These would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's actually a double. It's a density 4 radial body, double, and 1 for each. These are the Hava bodies, so these are the Havens, the 7 lower havens, the havens and the havens. And when you look at them together, they're just considered the heavens, the 7 higher and the 7 lower heavens. And finally, I was able to find them where they fit with the Huva bodies and the radial bodies and where the flame bodies go, so at least we got that far. Anyway, this is going to help us with Pillar of Power, I have a feeling, when it comes to Kathara 4 time, that we've already actually done. But I don't know if any of us have a clue of what we actually did. It's there. It makes sort of sense, but there's a lot of pieces missing. These are some of the pieces that go with that. So it's amazing the order they come in. You know, you get Kathara 12, now we're back to Kathara 2, now we're into Kathara 9, now we're into Kathara 5. This is how the frequencies are chopped up when they come in. So it's literally how transmission goes. It can be really brutal sometimes. This is just showing you the 7 higher and 7 lower heavens all together in the structure of the Veka Hava body. Okay? That goes back to the stuff we're putting into K23, where we have Hala bodies and Hale bodies and all those going up from the Akasha upward. So that's just showing the structure and explaining a little bit more where all those pieces fit. And again, we have down here, and each one, there's another Kathara grid that is the ethos, eros, and ethos. And between those, there's another one that forms. It is the Ka and the Tha and the Tha and the Ka, which would be the Ka, the Tha, and the Ka. So there's a whole bunch more sets of balls that phase and create the, I won't even get into the eyes of God that they call the eyes of God. They're the parts where the spheres, these are eyes of God as well, where the spheres interact through each other. There's a whole set of dynamics that take place in creation there that has to do with those transfiguration waves and things that we saw like kind of floating in space, and I don't even know what angle to put them at yet in the diagrams. But this plugs into transfiguration waves and those kind of things that someday, God help us, will probably be shown. But most important is we get to go home to Eden, and all I care about is finding out exactly where that might be on these maps so I know what we're doing, but I know how we're doing it. All right, so that's what I'm looking for is Eden. What just fell apart? Oh, that just fell apart. What fell apart? Yeah, I did. Okay. No, I lost the other end. I don't know how that happened. I was afraid my shirt was falling apart there. All right. Now, as if that weren't complicated enough. Just so somewhere in your mind, you might remember, thank you, you might remember that we have that there's actually 6, but it looks like 4 with 1 in the middle, right? But there's actually a 6 configuration of the natural ones when we're talking about the Have bodies, right? The ones that run with the pKa primal light, PCM primal light would be the Have. The ones that run on center with the densities are the Hava. Right? What are these things over here? This is where we've got black hole systems. This is where they are spheres of fallen frequency that are partial quarantined, that interface with other matrices. These are the wormholes. These aren't little wormholes we're talking about. We're talking about big systems that have quantum near what we have in our natural living system. This one here is the Wisadek one that we talk about, the wormhole that interfaces with Wisadek. So if we have our sphere of PCM here, and this is just when it's in the regular start spin rotation. This isn't showing the rotations yet. All right, so there's the PCM Hava body, and here is this black hole. It's interfacing with us. It spirals through us, but it's on a bit different axis. Its axis is where are we? Like that. All right. Now what they've been doing is using the gravitron thing, interfacing them this way, right through the center of our matrix. So they've been sucking energy through into their system from our system. That's what it's all about, to make their ball grow bigger by eating our balls. So that's basically the name of the game in their worlds. All right. If that weren't bad enough, we've got... It's not that bad, actually. I mean, we're dealing with all this really, really well, I think. For the fact that for 10,000 years we forgot and we were in ignorance was bliss for a while there at least. Most we had to worry about was what tribes were killing what tribes down here. Couldn't figure out why either. Now we know. But here we have Wisadrak on the other side. Same way, interfacing with the parallel system. But right now the parallel system lives there because it fell. When parallel Earth fell, it began the downfall of that particular pKa quadrant, and that now lives in the Wisadrak black hole system. This is the interface hole that connects through a wormhole into a different matrix, which is a different big ball, different Akasha ball that is fallen. All right. So it's like one Akasha ball trying to eat another. It's like free radical warfare in the cells. Okay, now... we also have up here the Adonai Christic fall host. This is running through this way on this axis, but it's on the parallel Akasha Ekaveka side. And it actually is balancing out the system as a twin to the Wisadrak one. It doesn't have Wisadraks in it. In fact, it has more connection to the Anunnaki races than it does to any of the Drak races, but it accepts both as far as last chance place for peaceful fall. Some of the people that are falling here will still go there. They will still be accessible. Just to see where these balls interface, where these black holes interface, will help so we have a bit of a spatial orientation to what this looks like, what our universe is going through. And somewhere around the center of our PCM, once we're over in this rotation, our PCM, this is where we're dealing with stuff like the center of the Milky Way galaxy that's supposed to be plugged into other galaxies, and it's not yet. I haven't analyzed which is actually supposed to be where and where they're ripped apart. But by looking at the stargates, those are the proper stargates. We should be able to see what constellations are actually supposed to be part of each other and which galaxies were actually part of each other before this originally happened. I know we were part of the Pleiades, part of the Pleiades spiral, and that should go up into the Sirius spiral, and that should go up through through Sirius C, Procyon, Arcturus. So there's a whole structure that at some point I'll analyze if I ever get to it. But see, a lot of this is analysis. You can see where, and it implies a million different things once you see a certain set of facts on the graphs. And it takes forever to try to backtrack it to that. How am I doing? Oh, not too bad. I got to 6:30, right? Oh, good. I don't have to talk 400 miles an hour yet. Yeah, next one, please. We're getting there. I'm actually getting tired. What does this one do? Oh, yeah, this is when I didn't have time to white out. Now that we know that we have black hole holes and all sorts of things, along with our normal light balls, what this is eventually going to show you, at least you can see a little bit of the axis tilt here, okay? Right, running this way. This was the normal pKa axis. That is the spin axis that we're actually on right now because we've rotated up through there. It's not showing that yet. I didn't have time to get that far in this diagram. But if this is us, this is the angle that this axis is going to break and stick on. And this is what's going to stop it from falling really fast, is plugging in to tellus here, that will hold it and allow it to fall gently, infall, with what's left of the PKA ball over here. So they can infall, they'll pull together here, and from the center there will be a one-way link into the Akasha hubs, where there still can be, being sent in, as long as the Christic core of this light unit and this light unit are going to go into this position and fall, but sovereign, where they become a biveka light unit here, but still hold a connection here to their hubs. And as long as they hold that connection, they will be in a cal fall state, which is a sovereign free fall state. They're quarantined and they have each other to deal with, but they don't have to be eaten alive by the other holes. And it was the best gift that could be given to those beings and territories, as far as if the hub project wasn't initiated. If they just let it go as it was and the hubs came up, we'd all be going home real fast and not remember a thing. Right? We would have, all of us on both sides would have gone space dust. If they had not allowed the openings of them, so to prevent space dust, we all would have been visiting probably the Budharas down here, because the Budharas interfaced with the Wisadek hole, and they actually have a hole over here of their own that's running the gates. They took over behind the Ark of the Covenant gates, and we were dealing with that with the 999 temple activations and things when we were in India. But they have to close those gates now, and that's why it can go better than it would have otherwise. If the hubs hadn't opened, we wouldn't have won the stalemate. If the hubs had stayed closed, this system and probably most of us would have been stuck in fall Shona. And that means being controlled, basically body snatched, or if you were just useful as labor and they didn't want to bother being your identity or your body, they just make you do things. And you know it, which is even worse. I think it's better to be body snatch, not know your body snatch, and just, and hopefully if there's anything left of you, it got out and up someplace. But we don't have to deal with that anymore. And all of the people that were getting Metatronicked super fast by the Budhara retrovirus now have got a bit of a reprieve, where they have time now that they can begin to anchor, particularly with the success of anchoring the frequencies of the hubs and making especially that first link, which comes tomorrow morning, the first link where we anchor hub 12 pulse, bring it into arc 12. That begins the encryption process. Then we finish it in Tenerife, get it down and through, the encryption starts, and it starts the circulation. And that begins the process of the return home to the garden a lot faster than we ever thought we were going to be able to. And it may get rocky. That's why we will have to have, at some point, certain types of training. They'll teach us Bardo training. Bardo's training is not about suicide. And in fact, it's totally not recommended. Don't do that, because that's just with your ego messing with your higher identity. A higher identity doesn't need to kill itself. If it wants to leave, it just stops. It shuts down, goes to sleep, and goes elsewhere, and doesn't come back. That kind of thing. Hermit crabs do it all the time. But we don't need to do that. All right, if we work this hard, we're trying to take it through, for goodness sakes. And if we're not going to take it through, we at least need to use our vessels to get ourselves to a high enough level of frequency where it's an easy ride through as consciousness. So people have been distorting things that I've said in the Phoenix workshop, where they're saying, it's like Heaven's Gate and that kind of stuff, because, we're going to teach, that we're going to teach Bardo how to die, right? And then we're going to go off and leave our bodies and go off in spaceships. No. That wasn't exactly what I said. No, we're going to have Bardo training for those who can't take bodies through gates. All right. Now, last time I checked, Bardo was the only way any of those guys know how to get out of here in the first place, but they don't remember how to even Bardo. I mean, people die, right? As far as I know, I can't fix that. That's not my fault right now that people die. And if they're going to throw things at me, because I want to teach you, if you're going to die, how to do it in the most easy way possible so you can get out into free space where you want to be. I'm not saying go kill yourself. Hell no. Stay here and make the best of what you got, because it doesn't get any better when you get on the other side. Seriously. Suicides find that out. It's a real drag. You just make them go, oh no, I still feel awful. No, my body's gone. I have to start all over again. Oh, yuck. There's a real oh, yuck. Got to do another incarnation just because I did that. That was dumb, wasn't it? Yeah. Right. Anyway. back to this mess. This will be clearer by Tenerife, but we will see the angle that it's kind of like a stuck in time and rotate that's going to happen, where we make the gravitron link, and this will give us time for each level, each dimensional level of the tachyon cycle to build up, so we can progressively heal each level of the density 1 Taran first, and get to the point where we are capable of building the tachyon fields that are the superluminal fields, which means you get to where you can go really, really fast as far as your particles spin. And first you probably go so fast that you look like you're totally slow and stopped, and then I think that reverses, and then I think you end up on the other side at that point. There's a whole process of Rachelet body training. Part of it is going to be mental body training, because before we deal with tachyons and being able to generate them, which is going to happen naturally as we heal our tachyon systems, get control of our thoughts, because we will find them leaping out before us with leaps and bounds and scare ourselves half to death. So they will begin some of those trainings of the mental body training, and really just because most of us, the mental body kind of does its thing, just like the emotional body does, and it's there, it's a part of me, but you don't really think about it much. Some part of it is thinking about itself. And you'd be surprised when you catch yourself doing, what am I doing? Where do I focus on energy on that belief? Oh my God, that's where that stupid pattern I kept creating a mess in my life came from. Aha. Right, so there's lots of revelations and healing to come. But one of the other things that will be equally important is psychic skill development. We will be taught how to, I wouldn't say astral project, not quite yet, not until the astral body is purged, its Taran purged properly, which will be later. Because see, these are coming from the top down, and it will be later when we have with the lower gates, the ones that when we start to be able to be invisible type stuff. Actually, you can do that right now, not as well as you will be able to in 2012 or so, but you can do invisibility shields now, and they work. First of all, you have to realize you can, or you just block the fact. And you say, I can't do that anyway. Well, there you go. You just manifested the fact that you can't do that, right? You can actually. Glazing is great, where if you're walking by a wall or, say, a parked car and there's somebody creepy looking at you from across the street and it's making you nervous, you just imagine you're the scenery. Like if there's a building here and a parked car there, you just put the building there. And it's amazing how people actually will very often respond to you as if you're not there. There's certain tactics you start to play with. But you have to realize you have the power to do this. And even without your tachyons turned on, you have been doing this all along. Part of our imprisonment has been our own mind control, because we've been tricked into mind control. We're going to start getting our minds back. We can thank the Thetans for that one, by the way. They set up the beginnings of the mind control net here, and the Anunnaki took it over later and kind of fine-tuned it and added some polish. So anyway, this is the system. Let's see, do I want to share that one? Do I need it? Yeah, all right. Well, I'm almost on the last one. I have that one and then two-ish more. The color map. Oh, got to do that real quick. I'll just do these real quick. This isn't complete. It's just to show you, basically, if we were looking at density, the density 1 Hava, density 2 Hava, density 3 Hava, density 4 Hava. Say that was one Cathara grid, just like these 4 bodies, right? If we were talking about the natural Taran configuration, right? And these are just here to show like degrees, axis alignment. You'd have the horizontal, horizontal and vertical axes. Then you'd have the 45 degrees, which are the 0 point lines. That's where where creation starts from. Actually, it starts here with the phasing, and this is the natural configuration of the first 3 Partakai sparks, backflow return sparks that are formed from the first phasing of the first Partakai, which would be in here. And it's interesting because these are actually off center, where the Partakai is on center. And I'll have to show you later when we do the Tenerife, not later today, but later after the Tenerife stuff comes out, because it's quite specific, and it creates things like transfiguration points and manifestation points and creation points and etheric creation points, all in the alignment between this light cell and the core Partakai cell that's behind it, which would be the first cell, the first Partakai unit. So what this is showing the alignment on center point, creation point, which would be the center of the first Partakai. Notice this is up a little bit, right? Its center point is about there. Okay, so the cell on top of the first backflow return spark, and this isn't actually 1. 1 is actually here. 1 starts out down here, 2 here, 3, same place as 1, and it shoots 1 over here and 3 over here. So you get 1, 2, 3 as the natural alignment of the spark alignments. So each density should have its natural trinity phase, Tauran. What we've got happening is this mess on density 3, and that was what happened 570 million years ago with the demon seed. That is one of those split in half and twisted at different axes to form, it has the black hole, sucking hole at the center, and it forms what's called the demon seed. These aren't on 45-degree axes. These, and I just did this quick, but these would be on the I think they're I think they're 60 degrees. They turn out to be 60-degree axes from the verticals, and their verticals aren't here. Their verticals are here at, if this is 22.5, this would be 23.5. This is roughed in degree shift. So that is what we're dealing with in density 3. That creates a vortice set here that is the density 3 gravitron. Then there's another set here, and they actually move where one will go this way and the other will go this way, and their ends will touch. So they interact with each other. But this was just to show the concept of the gravitron at a 23.5, because I do believe this one goes this way and then this one goes this way. This is density 1 down here, Earth. On Earth, this happened 75 million years ago with the Thetan invasions from Theta, Orion, sword. And this spin, it's dragging ours into the same thing. It's moving from this axis here, right, to here. As of December 21st of this year, 2005, the vortice is on vertical alignment on Tara and also down here on Earth. What it is doing now is picking up spin speed in order to get enough momentum to actually cause the rod. It already did on Tara, but what the next step is, and we are moving into that now, is the snap of the rod, snap of the staff. The staff is the central vertical column, the natural one, that still holds the Iridon passage line through Tara and through Earth. When this gravitron ends up on the vertical axis, picks up enough spin to override it, it'll reverse the spin on the Iridon passage, and that will cause it to snap at 11.5 on the Cathara grid, and that will begin the final tilt. And what that's doing, as the gravitron's doing that, it is creating the final alignment, the death throes of the Tauran in density 2, and that's what they're trying to drag Earth into as well. What we have a chance to do here, because this will happen, but we have a chance here. Well, this is where we are today, well, since the 21st of December. We are going to go through tomorrow both an anchoring of a hub pulse that will give back the potential to really quickly harness and turn back around our personal level ones, and help to do that with the planetary and the solar one, and work with the other indigo shield beings that are in this universe, because part of it is going to be turned back around, back to its natural configuration like this. And once it's at that configuration and held, and it will be held through a series of things that are a bit complicated, that have to do with something I have to go backward to show you. It has to do with Arc 7. Arc 7 will assist in the process, let's say, of holding. Once the part of it that we can twist back into its natural Trinity configuration, while this is going and falling, and by December 21st, 2006, it will be aligned with Telos here. Now that's when it would have started to fall into the Buddhara system, but they've got to close their gates. They've got to close them tonight if they don't want to get blasted tomorrow. And they'll have to close them all the way down. When our 11s are going, they're going to have to close them before our 11s go. So it's kind of ironic. It's kind of, it's like, finally. I want to go back to one to show something. I don't know if I don't have it forward, do I? I have them someplace, but I didn't. I'll just put this up. I can use any one of them to just talk about it. Just really quickly, I would like to show you. No, actually, I need an art gate one. Yes, I do. See, there's a couple that aren't even. After I get these done, I have to make. These are base diagrams to make more, and they'll show you some interesting configurations. Yeah, I can do it off that one, I think. Methinks. Actually, the one before it, I think I need. Yeah, the more complicated one. Yeah, thank you, honey. Okay. Back to this for a moment. Am I upside down, inside out? Just a little backwards. Okay. Just want to show you something about the arc gates. Now, I pointed out before how Polarian 12 is actually nestled in here, right? Where, now, if we're here on the part, where this is the particum side at this point, the arc gates, by the way, and the Polarian gates, they do not rotate with the Vecca. They stay where they are. So that means the Vecca's quadrants rotate through them. So even though they do other stuff. They're the ones that stretch out and phase and go into the center. All right, but they don't rotate around and switch places in the same way that the Vecca quadrants do. I'm losing my shirt here. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. So that means even though we're over here now, our PCM universe is over here, and that means this is our 3 gate here, and this is our 6, and this is our 9 under here. It's not 10-10 anymore. It's like now it's the 9-9 alignment, because of the switch. And I have those two that started in India. We have more that show the rotations and where everything is right now. What's most important to understand, if you're going to understand the work that we're trying to do with all of this, is Arc 7 is still here right now on our PCM Vecca. That is our 4 gate. It's also Akasha level, Ruche 11. It also runs directly through this the main shield of the Rajna shield, density 3 shield of the Akasha level. That is a very strong stabilizing point. The other stabilizing point is here. What we're going to end up is by December of 2006, when that tilt comes over this way and this PCM falls this way, it's going to be held by the Arc 7 cluster and the Arc 12 cluster. All the other arc gates are also clustered, what they're called arc hub cluster gates, you'll see why in a minute, are going to open. But Arc 7, which is Mesa, Arizona, is going to be extremely important. That's why a lot of people are getting a call to go there. But there's 12 other arc gates that are going to be very useful, and each one of them has 12 domains now. So they work different than they did before because of the hub interfaces. And we'll show you a little bit about what they're going to look like. When we do the Shasta trip, we're helping to make this link here, the TELUS link, and so it just doesn't start to go fly back that way when they close the wormholes that are holding it and drawing it over, right? Yeah, and we're going to be doing Phoenix a lot, like Phoenix area, because that's where we work through the Mesa, from the Mesa grids. There's other sites we'll be drawn to too, but these are the main areas because it's the main axis of host that will allow for us to do a tachyon cycle to begin the process of healing enough to, when the time comes, to be able to get pulled into the Edon levels. And I really, really want to find exactly where they are in those circles. Yeah, this is a cluster. This is one arc hub cluster gate. That's one gate. Each arc gate has one. They're at the specific axes. These have been done very carefully between Az and Wilbur's working on them with special map programs and things. So that this is the first one that we've been able to do. A lot of them are going to overlap when you start to get them. And the real powerful point is what they actually are built on the 144 keys. All right, there's 144. There's actually 1,728. But major keys, there's 144 major keys. Where you have is 12. Right, 12 cluster. The 13 is the arc gate itself. Right, and then each of them has 12. So each center is another one of these. Right, the crossover zones in the areas, you can zoom these like right into like street maps, and have an idea of where you fall. Certain areas we're going to be shown have certain purposes over others. We've been actually asked to go to 2 places at once, which is kind of interesting. They want us here and up in this area up in here. So we actually have to do Colorado and Arizona. So we're going to be moving there for a while. They said for 3 years we're needed in the grids there. So it's going to be a very, very long stretch. 1 foot in Colorado, 1 foot in Arizona. But this is just the beginning. We are actually because this is the stability rod one. This is why this is so significant right now. Where I showed you before, where arc 7 plugged into the density 3 shield and crossbar on the akasha level to hold the end of that tilt once it comes. It's extremely important for that reason, and that's why there's a lot of energy being focused there. So all of them will actually link through. When we have arc 12 anchors, it's going to begin activation of this on the arc 12 side of the arc 12 one, but there's a point in time when this interfaces into Phoenix, into the Phoenix area. It's actually Mesa as the center. So they will all interface through into that in order to allow that to be held on each of the dimensional levels. So it's a big project, and I have a feeling it's going to get fun at some point. It may get a little bumpy as far as planetary-wide. They're already, I mean, some of the groups that track stuff like wobbles and things are commenting on some strange stuff happening with the wobbles. What do they call it? The Chandler wobble, I think? Yeah, something like that. So, I'm too busy trying to do this stuff to do their work for them. But there's stuff. It's interesting if you look and see. Watch sunspot activity. Watch, fluctuation of magnetic fields and things. Yeah, there's some weird things happening. And usually the public is the last to know, with the way science and politics work together here. So anyway, this is the beginning. We are working on a hub cluster map, world map. So we'll be able to see, where they all interface. And, yeah. Okay. Cool. Oh, okay. Okay, I was just saying by Tenerife, we'll have all 12 individual ones done, plus the whole worldview one done by Tenerife. And we'll be shown progressively with our Rosh Hashanah training how to use them. Because there's some very, very sacred mechanics to use here.
On the backs of the individual ones, we'll have a summary of all the key positions.
Right. These are like summaries of all the key positions that'll be on the backs of all the individual ones and stuff. This is just to show you an idea of what these maps are going to be like. And they plug right into the other map. They're built on the same. Why don't you do this for a while, and when you're done, I'll get back to the last 2 pages. That's how my brain feels by the end of a transmission session very often. Anyway, so you can see where it's going, where the information is going and what we're being given. These maps are going to be really awesome, and they're going to teach us some really neat things about them. I know they are. I do know that they're going to be reactivating Mesa Verde, and some people know what that means, and some people don't. And I scratch my head and say, I think I might, because I remember groups of people disappearing out of those regions here and there throughout history, including a few groups I took out. And up and away. What? Do what? Yeah. So, anyway, there are many places that are going to be coming into activation. Now, all of these places, by the way, that are in the zones that are particularly with the main flows of these arc hub cluster renewal zone maps, these are the areas of the planetary grids that will be encrypted, re-encrypted into the hubs. So they will be the areas that are capable of starfire. Okay, the areas that fall out of those immediate vicinities will be areas that will probably not be able to be pulled in and encrypted into the hub. So they will be areas that, let's say, when there might be some changes here, fall land, and there's going to be changes at some point. I don't know how long, but I do know they've said because starfire will take longer, unless you just want to get it over with and everybody goes to space dust, which they're not doing. It does take longer than starburst, because you go through starburst, but then you go into the tachyon cycle. They did say we need to start training a next generation, and we're starting that one. Starting that. My girls are getting interested in that kind of thing. So on a little level, but it means the indigos as well. And it doesn't necessarily mean your own children. It can. But it means there's a next generation that will be waking up soon to begin learning to understand what they need to do, because they will most likely be the ones that stick around for a while, long enough to teach the others how to do Christic fall, which means the next generation gets to deal with the whiners and movers and shakers, even though they mean well and they want to do Christic fall. Yeah, it's kind of like we get relieved of duty, and those of us in this particular generation, as is in a certain age bracket, I'm in a certain age bracket. There are youngins coming up right now that aren't too young. They can learn some things and will be guided into the work because they have a very sacred job. A lot of us are tired. We're just burned out, and by the time we get done running the frequencies to finish this, then you want us to go and teach them all about that and write all those books? I don't think so. We need a new generation because we need to go to back into the Eden for some rehab and that kind of stuff. So just relax for 10,000 years, please. So we're going to be, we are in the process of, there will be generations. There will be generations both of risers and of fallers coming. The fallers are coming so they can learn how to fall well, right? And they probably won't recognize it. So the paths are going to be the path of Christic fall, which is part of that cow fall, but it's distinct in the fact that they are going to try to focus on learning and reintegrating and doing the Christic thing. And they're really going to have to do it this time, not just give it lip service, or they're not going to hold the hub connection, which means they will be finite, and they'll also be kind of like free radical where they can get messed with by the big guys again. So there will be ones from everything from Ashtar Command to Galactic Federation to all our good old Anunnaki buddies all over the universe, and a lot of our Drak buddies too that drove us insane and kept breaking every agreement of Emerald Covenant we ever made. They'll be coming in because now they have the Hathars, which are a fallen Anu Hathor hybrid race. There was an attempt to regenerate the Anu that didn't work, but there's still a lot more mature than a lot of the other races. They have been elected by various fallen councils that want to do the Christic thing as the ones that will be least biased to oversee and to interface directly with councils from the hubs through intermediaries so they can set this up. There will be generations that we need to train at this point and how to set up this matrix, because we're not going to be sticking around to set up the matrix. We have other things to do, like go back to the garden. So anyway, these are just, you'll be seeing these come out too. I just wanted to show you. I'm not going to go through every one of these dates. It's not that important right now because it's information that is outcoming and will be more of. But Hub Pulse 12, H12, it released on October 2nd, 2005 while we were in Phoenix. That was the Inner Hub Gate 12 released its Starfire 12 pulse, right? January 3rd, 2006. That's tomorrow morning, right? At least it better be. Am I right on my dates? Yeah. I did this so fast, and it was like, I forget what time, but it was some bizarre hour in the middle of the morning. No, that's all right. I'll just run down quick. But this one anyway. Hub 12 pulse anchors in UK Arc 12 cluster. Now, we're here to anchor that. All right, as the indigo shield to anchor it. The Adonai among us will get it first, and then we'll downstep it through to the rest of the indigos, and then together we'll run it into the Arc 12 gates. We're already connected to those Arc 12 gates, and the clusters run up past here. I'm sure we haven't looked at them yet, but I'm sure they come up, in this area for Arc 12. I would think so, yeah, because it's only a 4-hour drive. And they're big. I mean, these cluster gates are really, really huge, so it's really exciting. They also phase. Like how might an arc cluster gate get into the Eden? Probably by folding its thing up and pulling itself in, just like a monad does. And that's probably exactly what your fields do when you interact with them. That's how you go back and forth. There will be some that are trained to go back and forth, I've been told. Yeah, boy, please. You raise my hand, please, please, please. I've been really, really good, and I haven't given up yet. Please, can I be one of those? Right? So this is what we're doing here. This is Hub 12 pulse anchors. The D12 density 1, so the D12 subharmonic of density 1, Taran initiation. All right, this is where we anchor the D12, the Hub Pulse 12 frequencies through the arc gates into the Tarn to begin purging and clearing, and the D12 level of the Tarn will turn back around and get held in the frequencies of the Hub Pulse as, like, I think we got a little version. What we did that real spontaneous one, and turning it back around and holding it there. But I think there's going to be a specific version that we're given for the morning. I don't have it yet, so it must be on security clearance. Either that, or they just said, we'll do it live. I don't know if they're going to do it live. I hope it was paperwork, but I don't at the same time. For your sake, I hope there's paperwork. But for my sake, I just wish they'd do it live and let me go to sleep, but they don't do that. So we're going to do, from what I hear, it is 6 in the morning tomorrow morning. And there's no, I've asked them, like, should we eat light or, not drink coffee or not drink alcohol or do this or that or the anything. And they said, just relax. Have a good time. Have a nice meal. Have a nice bath when you get in. Sleep well. Watch something funny on television. Laugh. Get some good sleep. And then just show up. Right? Sometimes less is more. Right? Which is back to the Mylars and why there's only 15. Right? So I don't know what they're going to do with us, but it is about this, as far as what the frequencies are exactly coming through. We are intercepting Hub Pulse 12 that was released in, when was it, October 2nd, when we were in Phoenix, and it finally got its way up through the hubs, through the densities, and down into density 1. And that's where it's coming into density 1, and now we've got to bring it over into the arc gate. And then in Tenerife, we will bring it from the arc gate. It's actually going to be moving on its own. We got to direct it and anchor it down into the Pillar 13, which is planetary seed atom stuff, which is Tenerife is very near. And that, we use that place to access it. And I figure it's a different space to see than Morocco, which is also close by. Morocco's beautiful, but the desert's pretty intense. I just won't go any further. So anyway, what we're doing after that, right, this is where Arc Hub Cluster Gate 12 quickening starts. That's where it starts, not activating yet, but it starts to pick up the beginning of the frequencies through the indigo shield. Then February 25th, 2006 is during the period of time we're in Tenerife. And these are, some of them are exact dates. Others of them are within a day or two, either side. Okay. All right. This is Hub 12, D12, Hub encryption in density 1 begins. So this is when we begin, we've brought it over, we've anchored it into the Arc 12 gate here, there. Then we've arced it over, and now as it's doing this, it picked up the whole encryption of everything that was in that cluster around the Arc 12, right? Now we bring it over and anchor it into the seed atom, and it takes that whole encryption of what that monadic shaped gate set was and brings it right into the hub. It encrypts that part of the Amente template into the hub. And each gate is going to do this. So there's a synchronization. I won't try to go through the schedule right now because we'll be here until tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock if I try to do that. But it's showing you the structure of what this is. And I haven't proofed it yet, and I really hate to let stuff like this go without proofing it, just in case numbers are wrong. Like, did that say 2049? Oops. No, that was supposed to be a 0. 2009. Yeah. So anyway, this shows you basically there will be a point of hub gate release where the pulse is released from the hub gate, the point where it comes into density 1 and the indigo shield is used on the Vecca level and also the density level down here and also the planetary level to direct it into the arc gate of the corresponding number that will begin the initiation or the quickening of the arc gate cluster, and it will also allow that pulse to pick up the encryption of the area and the people and things that are in that arc zone cluster, that arc gate cluster. And then there will be the point in time where that arc pulse with its encryption from the arc cluster is brought back down into the central seed atom, and underneath that is the Tauran at the Azure, the planetary Azure. It will be brought back through and down into the hubs where it will be encrypted into the hub. Then there's a point after this, and this is where we get into this is April 15th, the Easter time, Arizona one. This is where we're going to, it's Phoenix, by the way. When I say Arizona, I say Phoenix. Yeah, I guess you could. I am stretching a bit, aren't I? Yeah, there we go. All right. So after we get to the point where we have brought it back, brought the arc, the pulse from the arc back down through Pillar 13 into the planetary seed atom, through that into the Tauran to begin the process of activating the Tauran, which is its pulsing cycle that begins to generate Kilana, and eventually the Kilana build up to form keys, and the keys form tachyons and such. So it begins the process on the D12 subharmonic level. All right? And these are all subharmonics. We're using the density 1 levels right now. Once we get density 1 cleared, we may be able to do quite a bit, actually, with some of the pieces of density 2 and density 3. Like, just because certain parts fell, it doesn't mean there's not some that can't be pulled into the host, but that remains to be seen. What we need to do now is get as many down here as possible. That's what we're doing. It's like, yo, density 1 is going into the garden. Anybody come in? And it's like, yo, the chambers are very, very full. It's kind of like no passing zones or anything are left. It's kind of like, yeah, gonna make it down there before that closes. Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's funny. It's ironic how sometimes that he who is first is later last, and vice versa, and things. Yeah, he who is big is later small. What goes down must come up. What goes up must come down. Sometimes the law of gravity applies even to avatars. Yeah, because they're up there. Sometimes they have to come down. Yeah, anyway, never mind. I'm getting tired. So anyway, all right, this is the first one we do is the Easter time 2006 in Phoenix. This is when we do what's called the density 1 D12 level, because it's what the hub 12. Taran Arc 7 Edon host link. That's what they're calling from the Taran to Arc 7, which is what we showed you that links into that part of the Akasha level, like the cross beam on the density 3 shield of the Akasha level. This is just referred to as the Taran Arc 7 Edon host link. It's the host that will hold the host for us so we can get to the point where we can do starfire into the Edons. So every one of the pillars every one of the hub gate activations and the hub pulses will have its period of time of Arc 7 Edon host link, and it will also have its period of time in which this stuff occurs. Now, the first one we do is when we go to Shasta. This is where let me see, where's the line I'm looking for? There, with the density 1, D12, Vecca Telos Polarian Gate 12 host link. So this was on the side of the top where the PCM is going to fall toward the top, is linking into the Polarian Telos gates to hold it that way. And this is the bottom end. So Arc 7's holding the bottom, and it's actually Echo 1. They're calling it the D12 Vecca Telos Polarian Gate 12 host link. All right, these gates change. Like this number changes with each one, but Vecca Telos Polarian is the key, which means is that Echo 1 level, the Telos part of the gate. So that is the top link, and this is the bottom link, and that's the host that will allow the tachyon cycle to regenerate and take place. So there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff. I don't want to ask what the technicals are, because I know there's a transmission that's as intense as the one that was given for what is a starburst. I remember asking that question. What is exactly a starburst? By the end of the India workshop, I was really wishing I'd phrased it differently. Simpler, like, could you tell me about one little small part of starburst? Could you possibly give me a very short, not more than half a page summary of what a starburst is and why we should be aware of this, right? I have to be more careful. Maybe they'll help me if I'm more careful with my mental body. It will create a filter that will allow only the most important things to come through so we don't all have to go crazy with this stuff. But I do think some of this stuff is needed for those who are going to be left behind. The ones who decide they are going to do the Christic fall need to know what happened. Because one of the deals with that is they cannot pretend it didn't. Because it will change the encryption they carry, which will change their axis alignment. Because your encryption is held in your body as a gelesic form of energy that will literally affect what polarity your light body has and what axes it holds. So they can't lie anymore, basically. You can lie to yourself until you turn purple, but it's not going to change what consequence you draw to yourself. So those who are ready to face the consequence that they did create in making the choices they did that had them wind up in a fall, they will be entrusted as the record keepers of the new Christic fall matrix that is being formed. And it will be a host matrix, a matrix that will host other places, other beings from other places that are falling in other systems, as long as it can hold that host. And it means as long as it holds the truth of the encryption and the truth of the original records. This is why we have had to teach the truth of the history, as well as just the mechanics. because that is encryption. And we have been encrypted up the gazoo here with false history that holds false vibration, that holds false hydrogelesic patterns in your body that directly affects what frequency you can hold and what alignment your cells are going to take when the time comes for separation. So there is always a reason. Words, thoughts, ideas, concepts, belief systems, they all give you an encryption. Choose well. Realize that they all give you a hydrogel imprint. They add to the one that you have. And they either take you away from where you want to be or toward it. There is nothing neutral. It either moves you toward where you want to go or away from it. Because vibration is constantly alive. It's not stasis, which would not be vibrating, right? Anyway, these will be coming out. There are more of these. This is what we're preparing for right now. Tomorrow morning, we were just asked to just show up and meet it. It is at 6 a.m. They've said they would like us to meet, and we're kind of going, yeah, great. Yeah, sure. Hopefully maybe we can sleep tonight, because we didn't get any sleep last night. Between the heat and the colds running, forget it. Yeah. I appreciate everyone coming to be here for this. We didn't even know what it was. It was going to be a dinner, and then it got too big to be just a dinner because a whole bunch of people are coming. And okay, so I was told, just put something small together for them, right? Then I'm going to the beloveds. There's something more up here, isn't there? I mean, we got invited to do this just as kind of like a nice thing to do for the European people so they didn't feel left out because we're always doing stuff over in Phoenix and it's awfully expensive for them to come over, right? So then all of a sudden it just got bigger. And like I said, no, there's this whole wave of American people that need to come here too and they don't know why. But they belong here. Something's up. What's up? And it was like, mum's the word until right before. What's up is the people who ended up here were called here by their encryption. Because you have the coding that goes with the adenine side, so you can anchor the hub pulses. And you wouldn't be here otherwise. And that I didn't know until now. So I'd like to thank you for joining us and for being here and being part of the family. And it is a family, and sometimes family forgets the faces of its members, but there's a feeling that it'll never be forgotten. And that's why we're never forgotten in Source. Our encryption is always remembered. And everyone's is unique and precious. Every grain of sand has an encryption that is unique and precious. And do you know Source is big enough and eternal enough that it is aware at every moment of its now of every grain of sand manifest as itself? And if it's aware of that, every bacteria, every amoeba, every quark, imagine, it hasn't forgot us either. So that part of the living universe that we call Source or God or whatever you want to call it. I kind of like the unspoken un. Yeah, like the first un, the first particle. Well, the one before that, the unspoken one. Source is always with us. And so is the force. But it's a good force. It's not a force of harm. It's a force of love. I think I'm done. Am I done? I think I'm done. Oh, yeah, and I'm only 9 minutes over time.
And,
thank you.
A happy renewal year.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's have a very happy renewal year. See, this isn't just New Year, it's renewal year. So happy renewal year, and I hope we're all going to have a nice dinner tonight. That's what I hear out by the pool or something like that. And we'll try to be sociable and join you before we collapse someplace soft and sleepy. And see you tomorrow morning at 6. And thank you for coming. Well, yeah, good question. I have to find out too. Is it here? They say, yeah, we can meet here. We have the room till 8, right?
Is it next door to this room?
Dinner's next door, right next door.
Yeah, dinner.
Right. But we're meeting in here at 6, right?
Correct.
This room.
Yeah, tomorrow morning at 6 in this room.
Be here before 6 rather than 6, yes? Guys?
No, they can be here at 6, and we'll be out of here by 8.
Right.
Yes. Yes, they don't have to be here before 6. I'm not going to be here before 6. Not unless I really, really have to. Happy Festival of Light and life eternal. Set of tones, some of them we've heard, and a couple of the lines they've just given us now. They're saying this is a tonal activation. They're going to have me run them down so you hear the bit of melody that goes with them one time, and then when I go into the second round of them, to just sing them along with me as you can. I'll And we'll just keep building the tones. They're just going to have us keep building the tones, and as we're building the tones, to imagine again that the Taran that we have in our Azares, the little Triveca light unit, and imagine still that it's still in the place, in the upright position that we left it in last night in its Akasha bubble. It's going to go through a series of changes on its own, as it will call to itself, when it's in its proper position that we've been holding it in, it will call to itself the frequencies as they release into density 1. We're actually going to be, they're saying this is a solar activation, as the sun is rising and beginning to bring the frequencies onto this side of the world, and the dawn is coming. Our light units will begin to bring those rays from the ray spectra directly in. So we'll actually intercept those rays before they go directly into the planetary grids. It's almost like we're going to siphon those rays off, store them in our own Taran, and then we'll be transmitting at the end down into the Earth's core, and it will assist the Earth's core Taran to do the same thing that we are. This will create an activation throughout the gate systems. It will begin the process, the quickening in the Earth grid process, is how they're describing this. And we're going to go, he's going, and 1 and 2, counting in my head. By the way, Ma'a would like to say good morning. He saw a number of you last night. He'd like you to know. So if you thought you saw Ma'a or were communicating with Ma'a, you were right. Okay, not everybody, but there's a few people that were contacted last night. Sorry about that. I can't believe I have to sing at 6:22 and a half in the morning. All right. All right, now, let's see if I can get these tones down. Pardon my grumbly voice, it's a bit early. Okay. The first line is ete iwa nue san. Right, and it will be repeated twice. And it goes, ete iwa nue san. Ete iwa nue san. And the next one, okay, he's telling me to do this with it. Okay, that's the first part. Next part is Du Shanwa Nesa Uredon. Du Shanwa Nesa Uredon. Du Shanwa Nesa Uredon. And we'll be doing 2 of the first one of that, and then we'll go into one we've done before, which is the Karaya Satahu Metadoru Metador. Once you can do it that low, do it in that key if you can. The Karaya Satahu Metadoru Metador. And then for the ones with higher voices, you go, they're going to give me the overtone on it. Is it an overtone or is it a compliment? Karaya Satahu Metadoru Metador. And they're saying repeat that one 3 times with the people going low, doing the low version, and those going high, doing the higher. There are some of you that will get the resonant tones in between. Let them come out with that, particularly if you've used the Karayasan before. You'll find the tones wanting to move. You can move with that if you're used to doing that. But we're aiming for a low, a high, and then a middle range that comes out of that. And that will be 3 times. Then we go back to the beginning one, which was what? Umete iwa nue san. Umete iwa nue san. Do shanwa nesa uredon. Do shanwa nesa uredon. Something like that. Do shanwa nesa. I'm going on the first one. Sorry, this is a bit tough to get the melodies with them. Do. There it is. All right. With is and the do is do shanwa nesa uredon, or do shanwa nesa uredon. All right. So do what we can with it. Get ready in the count of 6. 1.
This one twice.
Yeah, this one twice, that one once, that one 3 times, and back through and just cycle through them for a while. Okay, until we build the tones and build. It's going to build a very large disc, actually, which is the part we'll be able to feel of a sphere that's being built. All right. Remember, we're drawing the frequency in. Imagine the sun, and that our Taran, in its right position, is literally just drawing in the rays that it needs from the solar spectra as it begins to come, into the world this morning.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Umete iwa nue san. Umete iwa nue san. Du shanwane sahure dan. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Umeta iwa nue san. Umete iwa nue san. Du shanwane sahure dan. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Umete san. Umete iwa nue san. Du shanwane sahure dan. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Umete iwa nue san. Umete iwa nue san. Du shanwane sahure dan. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Umete iwa nue san. Umete iwa nue san. Du shanwane sahure dan. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Umete iwa nue san. Umete iwa nue san. Du shanwane sahure dan. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Karaya sata umetedor, umetedor. Now pause for a minute. They're saying stop. Inhale deeply from both chakra 14 and chakra 13. One up, one down to the Azare. They're saying repeat these words just once. I will say the sounds once and they're going to be gone from my mind, just so you know. Etelia. Dushantra eta. Bijaneta. Ute kam ade. De Brahmneta. Ashukam. Ashutare. Dadina. Datuka esatore. Now pause. Exhale. Another inhale, and as you inhale upward from below your feet, you will notice a beautiful pale violet flame coming up with your inhale. Inhale. Feel a violet flame coming up the center of the Iridan passage, and feel a beautiful pale violet standing pillar coming upward and going off into eternity. And imagine it is going up in through the Eka and down in to the areas of the hub, of the Eka hubs in the core. And just hold the uphale. They're calling this an uphale. Try to feel the frequency that it builds around you. It's going a bit silver now, a silver violet. And now release a gentle downhale all the way into Earth's core. And as the downhale comes, watch the down pillar come in pale golden silver light, running on the outside of the pale uphale violet pillar. Breathe gently in natural rhythm. The next set of the commands, these are the commands of the Tauran, we'll call them now. But there are a set of these that come from a very ancient set of books that were once provided on Tara, not in Density 1, but on Tara. These are from the Alcyone records, the original Alcyone records. And this is a calling to the portions of the universe and ourselves that are in Density 2 and inviting them to join us in Density 1. Ashum Tara. Udon Itza. Kum Ashu. Deratore. Ta'uda. Ta'ur Shah. Ta'ur Komnate. Iniro Weve. The following tones will be given one by one. I will allow them one to move, and then just for a few moments do that tone and try to sustain the tone with me. And then we'll stop and go to the next tone. Okay. Stop. Dawn come. Back to those who can hold the A there. Keep that going and just keep cycling that, and I'm going to bring some more into it. Some of you can follow me, some keep the A. Now let's all join in bringing it together in a final, very low, slow. Shiwane, 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 Hey, just keep the A up there. Hey, and cycle it. Hey, keep it going. Humta Ashyana, Humta Ashyana, Humta Ashyana Soda, Humta Sonera, Humta Ashyana Sa, Tina Saena or Isha Nesadora, Isha Nesadora. Tiha humsha dehana, tuma hesha nehana, hina satareda, jarena satehara, amorea hita zanoe, hitahe, umahe, join me in Ekasha. 3 rounds of Umayatre and Ekasha, and then a stop in silence, and just breathe the pillars, the gold and silver one coming down, and the pale violet silver one going up. Umayatre na Ekasha. Umayatre na Ekasha. Umayatre na Every tower and ever created in the universe and cosmos has a set of 3 tones that form one tone. Every one is unique and different. Listen now for your tower and tone. You may not hear it as sound. You may feel it as a vibration or possibly see it as color. But there will be a set of 3 tones released. This will mark the beginning of the set for tachyon activation. The beloveds, on behalf of all of you and all of life everywhere, would like to welcome you back into what is known as the fold. The universe folds inward and outward as it breathes eternal life. It is like a flower that comes from the bud and opens in the light of day, and then as the sun goes down, it closes its petals and comes back in again, only to come back out the next morning to greet the sun. This is how the Ekaveka worlds behave in their motion. You are going to be joining us in the inner and middle worlds. Many of us have been here for ages and ages, watching what is taking place in the drama, in your, what we call the external universe. You are welcome to come in and always have been, but it has not been possible for a very long time. It is an honor to us as well as an honor to you to have the garden gates open, for we have family that are you and among you that have been missed for so very long. We would like you to know that we stand at these gates as a welcoming committee for you. We stand in spirit, and we stand in song, and we stand in light. And we will be here to greet you. The experience of activation of the Taran in its proper form is a celebration of the rebirth. It is the initiation of the starfire cycle. That is the long-awaited inhale and rebirth exhale of the Ekaveka systems. For those of you who will choose to take part in this grand design, the rewards cannot be mentioned. They can only be felt and known and touched with the soul and the heart. They are rewards you will remember the closer you get. And you will get closer each step of the way. This is the beginning with the torrent activation. What you are doing now and anchoring here, and what is now moving through the indigo shield, because you have called it to you from the rays of the cosmos as the waves come and gently caress this place. These waves could have been waves of destruction that sent everyone back to home in space dust very quickly. But instead they will be waves of transmutation, waves that will bring you all to the garden gates in one form or another, and allow those gates to open for many, many in your universe that otherwise would not have known this option. We thank all of you, and we again would like to give just a set of 3 more tones to, let us say, we will explain later because there's too much to explain and it will break the flow of the moment. So we will give 3 more tones if you'll join us in these. And then we will do a collective, after these tones are released. Imagine that all of you are a lovely sphere of energy together. You have created one with these tones. You have created Haven, and it will have its correspondent higher heavens, the Have, the Hava Have, the Have Hava. You have created, reached out to those of natural Christic order, and created back a set of spheres that can now be used to anchor the frequencies to the indigo shield that will be directed into first the Arc 12 gates. You can envision the Arc 12 gates with a common symbol. Imagine that there is a little hill someplace in a little garden, and in this little hill, in this little garden, there is a pond that is shaped as an akasha, and it is a small pond with flagstone around it and a bit of water in it and some golden fish swimming in it. Just a small akasha pond. If you can hold the image of a small akasha pond in your mind's eye, and after we release these tones, inhale upward from the violet pillar that is running, and hold in your taran for a moment a ball of violet light, and then bring it upward to top up the inhale into the image of this pond, of this akasha pond. The 3 tones will be as such. Nua, 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 Desa, 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 Atur, Atur, Atur. Now inhale the violet up into the tower, and then up to the image of the Akasha pool. And from that image we will exhale from the third eye chakra just directly to a point that led just directly straight outward, and the line will go where it needs to. And we'll inhale more violet light up to chakra 6, third eye, to the Akasha pond. Another. And now we can breathe gently and release the intention of the renewal cycle, the intention of the starfire rebirth, the intention that these natural and normal transmutative changes that occur in natural living universes will go smoothly, sweetly, with harmony, with less turmoil and more joy. Let them ride upon a wave of love that we all send to all life everywhere, to all races, whatever light they serve. Because the eternal light is the only true light, and the other lights will glow brightly and then dim. Where the eternal light goes always from the darkness to the dim to the bright, and then cycles back again, and it goes back into the velvet darkness and returns again eternally. It is not a light that just stays. It is a light that moves and breathes like the soul of Source. We are part of the soul of God's Source. We always shall be, as long as we choose the eternal way. The teachings we call the freedom teachings are one way of choosing the eternal way. There are others in other systems that reflect the same thing these teachings are teaching you, because there is one truth, and it is the truth of original creation. It is an encryption and a process, an intention and a love. And no matter what truth one may choose to honor or not, that truth cannot be touched nor changed. It is the one divine constant. It is the constant truth through which Source did create and continually creates the universe. And we can choose to participate in it or not. We can choose truths that serve to bring more of that truth to our experience, or we can serve truths that are twisted truths that take us further away from the feeling. Because in truth, the words are only small things used to convey small parts of a greater experience that is spirit. Spirituality reaches a point where the words become less and less, and the feeling becomes more and more. As we take this step into the thresholds of the gardens, as we begin to prepare ourselves for the ability, again, to re-enter the Edans, as we prepare our Taran, to purge out anything that is not of the original eternal truth, we are preparing for a great celebration. We are preparing for a place where words have their purpose, but they become less and less useful in describing the largeness of the truth that will come on waves of love. Love is a state of co-resonant vibration, where two patterns meet and blend and harmonize. They can say words to express that, but it is the wave, the eternal wave of co-resonant vibration, that is the truth of the love. It is like words are pictures, picture frames around a picture, and the love is the ever-moving picture. We are re-entering the zone of love that will get less and less words and more feeling. Know this as your Taran begins to speak to you, because this is an eternal part of you that has been held alive but imprisoned, alive but enchained. Tarns are meant to spin and cycle. They are meant to create ta'ur, little light units that build kilans, that build keys, that build beautiful tones, that build the ability to hold in our spheres of our light bodies the sacred tones, first the 12, then the 12 times 12, 144 keys, then the 144 times 12, 1728 keys, which are the core template of the divine blueprint in manifestation. We are building the 1728 keys, and we are starting with the first 3 tones to reactivate the Taran. Thank you for joining us in this activation. If you feel interesting energies running all during the day, that is not surprising. If you feel nothing, that's all right too. It is very individual. Some people will get heat flashes and cold flashes. Other people will get really tired. Other people will get really manic. And you probably won't get depressed. You might just get sleepy. Some people may find a bit of sadness coming up, particularly if you were connected with the Morocco trip, because there was a lot of pain that the entire group went through doing that. We also anchored some of the pain of those, the souls of Tara, the parts of ourselves that were on Tara, that experienced directly an invasion and their planet being taken over, and their technologies being used to entrap them in their bodies so they could be used and they couldn't escape. So there's a pain imprint that came down from the ethers, from Tara, during the Morocco trip. And it is time that we release this and let it go. So if there are tears before the Taran begins to sing, let that happen. Let them come. Because tears turn into rain. And then they fall and they evaporate and turn back into spirit and back into source. It is only when pain gets stuck that it becomes a blockage and a barrier. Pain is not taking you away from source. Sometimes, and in conditions like you sometimes meet on this planet, you will actually experience the deepest sense of source at the depth of the well of pain that you never knew you even had inside. Most of the time our egos make choices to try to avoid the pain. Because somewhere deep inside it's like we know there is some in there, whatever it might be from. If we don't fear the pain, and I'm not talking physical pain, nobody likes physical pain, but there is a pain that is worse. There is a pain that is an ache that is like the bottom of a well that is hollow and echoes on itself. Where when you get to that point, and some people will in this life, some people won't have to, but there's an underside that flips back when you are not afraid. If I need to find the depths of my soul, you will also find the heights, because on the other side of it, the pain transmutes and becomes something else. When we went through our walk-in experience, the part of myself that was known as Katie went through this period of time. It was about 10 years before we could do the walk-in. She wanted out at age 12. She was in her 20s and saying, I just can't bear it here, because she had the sensitivities turned on. I mean sensitivities where you can feel the refrigerator molecules talk to you when you walk by a refrigerator. You can feel the coal mines scream in the part of the earth body that's being raped when there's mining being done. There's a pain that you may begin to feel as you sensitize. When we did we were explaining to that part of ourselves, we can't walk in yet, we can't do the switch yet, but that pain, move past it. Don't keep trying to avoid it, because she would just literally try to distract herself, watch TV, put on the headphones, anything, just to keep away from that emotional signature. That signature is an encryption that has to do with Earth and the damage that's been done here, and with Tara, and with the demon seed of Gaia. There is a place where you can feel a certain vibration of it. You don't have to be engulfed by it. But if you can find a core pain, when we all have that core because we incarnated here, if you can let that come to you, when you're on your own, you have time to let it process. You know, you don't have to worry about the kids or the neighbors or anybody else, and not while driving a car. You know, give yourself a little time to say, okay, it's time to let it go, to release this core pain. It's like a seed of pain. It is time to release the seed of pain, because that seed of pain can't come with us into the gardens. It's a seed of pain that was not natural in those gardens. That imprint will not be able to encrypt. And you wouldn't want to encrypt it anyway, because we are giving back into the hubs now the encryption. And we want to give the best of what we are out here. And the worst can be healed and set free. So with activation of the Taran, there will be a point of pain, not physical. You might feel it physically once you decide you will let it go and run. It is a small crystal that is a compacted crystal that will release now, because we have turned the Taran back into its right position. And this will prepare us for the anchoring that occurs during the Tenerife trip, at which point the pulsing will be able to get to initiate. So when we go through even if you're not on the Tenerife trip, it doesn't matter. We're setting this in the grids, so it's available to everyone on the planet who can anchor any of these frequencies. But once the activations in Tenerife are done, we've now got the Taran in the right position. It will take its first pulse and release its first set of, not keys yet, it will release Taur, T-A-U-R, units. And the Taurs collect to form Kilana, and the Kilana collect to form keys. And it builds from there. The keys form songs, notes, and songs and melodies. So this is just the beginning. What we've done today is very precious for the life forms on this planet. It was going to happen in our universe and in our solar system, whether or not we participated. But because the indigos are still alive, well, and kicking on planet Earth will have an easy transition into this cycle, so it can catch the host. It would have caught it anyway, but it might have been pretty rocky, because there are certain animals, actually, that if the indigos failed, there are some indigo animals on the planet, and a few trees, that would have anchored it, but it would have anchored in a different way.
And they would have become extinct in the process of doing so, and they didn't. That was a choice their soul groups had made. The animals would have. We're not. We have the bigger shields that can hold this, but they would have done it anyway, even if we weren't here, because even the animal kingdoms want to get back to the garden. Some of them remember because they came from the inner. They remember their trip in. So we all have a point where we birthed down when we came in from above, but there's a point where we all birthed out from the middle levels of creation into the outer levels of creation. And that is our point from passage from the hub into outer manifestation. There's a point on the planet that we actually have a connection to the hubs, and everyone has a different place. You'll resonate with one of the 12 cluster gates. So this is the beginning of finding that core place again. And it will come after the release of the core pain. After the core pain goes, and you might even see it sometime. You have a dream about this nasty little crystal like popping out of your taran and like falling on the floor. You have to be going around looking for it. What am I supposed to do with it now that I got it? Right? If we get it, if we do get a visual where you have experience in it, what's funny? It may be a crystal of any kind that pops out somewhere that's symbolizing it for you. And you may have some of your own crystals if you collect crystals kind of look at you funny and resonate in a funny way, and you'll go, are you symbolizing that crystal they talked about? Or you may just have it process on the inner. It depends if you like to entertain yourself without picturing, whether you do more of that or not. But when you get that, if you get a physical manifestation of this crystal, it's not a crystal that's a bad crystal. It's a crystal that carried a big burden, and it simply wants to be set free. If it's just one you're envisioning that comes to you, there's a way to set it free. And you would simply, with your transmitting hand, your electrical hand, bring the violet ray up. It's the ray of transmutation. Bring the violet frequency up into the right hand and either hold the crystal that's symbolizing it physically, or imagine that you are holding this crystal once it pops out in your hand and saying, I release you back to your creation. I release you back to your source. And you may go now. Thank you for serving me. Because it did serve you. It served all of us. This crystal of pain, there are so many lessons of love that were taught in there. And when we set it free and allow that to transmute, and by the way, if it is a physical crystal, it is time to let it go away from you. You may want to give it off to the oceans. You may want to bury it in the earth. Feel where it wants to go, because you are helping it to release its pain. You're not going, when you run the violet ray through it, you are actually going to take whatever pain imprint was connected to you out of it. So you're not putting the pain into the earth or putting the pain into the sea. You're taking the pain out of yourself, saying it is time to let this go now. It is time to find the joy that's on the other side. And releasing through the violet ray, you're going to release the pain that's in the crystal, and then you're going to give it back where it can go where it wants to go. It is an energy form, and it will go where it wants to go, and it will guide you. And if it says, "Oh, I still want to sit on your dresser for a while," let it. But let it know, not for too long, because I don't need to keep focused on that pain. And if you're feeling a bit of an attachment to that crystal that's symbolizing this for you, be it an etheric crystal that you're imagining or a physical one, realize there's a part of you that still is trying to learn something from the pain. It seems to be wanting to hold on to it. But this isn't the time. All right? There will be a time we can review our pain records when we get into the gardens. This is time to clear as much as we can out so we can allow the tarans to breathe and become free again. Tachyon cycles are exciting, and usually you have at least 24 years to prepare for them. Well, I think we're on the crash course. What's new? So, anyway, I think, they're saying, yes, we're finished. We've got a lovely group of them here with us. I'm trying to see who they are. We've got a Violet Flame crew here. I was going to say, there's a group over here that I'm not used to, because I can see them in the etheric saying, all right, we got our usual guys, and we got the protection circle. Who are these guys over here? I feel they're Adonai of some sort. The Violet Flamers are coming in on this. I mean, we've got a representative of each of the flames here, the 3 speakers, and all of us are part of the flame groups. But violet seems to be the color of choice lately. That's why they have me paint walls violet in the house to anchor the frequency in certain areas of the house. But this is a group that's coming. Oh,
oh, that's who you are. Okay, I knew I felt I could. The signature was familiar from ancient times, but I was trying to place him because I haven't heard from him directly in this life. These are the Ark of the Covenant guys. These are the Ark of the Covenant of Paliador. These are the Paliadorians. And what? Okay. They would like to reintroduce themselves to all of us. See, they said some of us are them, but forgot, and that's all right. Not all of us, but some of us are part of their soul groups. Hi, my Katie's there. Okay, yeah, I forgot that one too. Okay. What? They would like you to know that they are part of this. They are part of the movement, and for some of us, particularly of Adonai descent, the Queventilier might say hello. They're the Yeti people, but they will be working more directly with the Paliadorians because you have contracts with them. A lot of you will have contracts with them. There are several other groups that they'll introduce at other times that also have their soul groups among the indigos here that this is such a big project that there's only 3 speakers here on the outside. It's inevitable that if we can get you to the point where you can hear clear on the inside, where you can trust your line and what you hear, then we just connected the phone lines, helped you connect your own phone lines. Then it's between you and the groups that you're a part of. And there are many different soul groups involved with the indigos and art, that manifest as indigos. So they like you to know that they are one of the groups, the Paliadorians. And they are the ones that actually promised to set up the art gate systems and to ensure it was. They knew the end of that promise was, if it got as bad can be, which the whole thing was going to fall, that it was their preference. And if we made the choice on this side of the Ekaveka, if we made our systems, not just us here, but the entire collective consciousness made the choice that it wanted to fall free if it were going to fall, if it didn't fix itself, but it wanted the assistance. They gave us the promise of Starfire by giving us the gate systems. They were the ones that created what would be the lower set gates, which are the arc gates. And then there are a set of the Polarian gates on the other side that were set in by the Adonai and several other races, some of the Bud races, but not the Budharas, the original seed Bud races. The Budrama, particularly the Budrama, are very connected to them, to the Polarian gates. But this is a new adventure we're on here, and it's an exciting one. I'm glad that this time, for those of you who came to join us in this Festival of Light, that there was something happy to talk about, because it's been getting a bit depressing lately, and I was saying, I just don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't have something good to tell them. I don't want to tell anybody anything. Because it's sad to have to bring more bad news. Great, go to a workshop, find out we have the latest bunch of misery. We don't want the workshops to be misery. We would like them to be joyful. And at this point, we have a lot to look forward to. There's going to be lots of wacky stuff happening in the world with other groups. There are the Metatronic people who are still doing all sorts of things in their conflict dramas, and there are going to be lots of different groups that still don't like us or want to hear anything we have to say. That's okay. We're busy. We don't have to engage this stuff. They've talked about the potentiality of a 3-way war. This doesn't involve us. We're not one of the 3. We're at this point, the path of the garden takes you into a different space. Sorry, completely. Where, because the systems are separating, and because we're not offending anybody now by helping anybody else get control of their own grids or anything, we're out of the grid wars at this point. These grids, they can't compete for, because they can't use them. Any of the fallen races, they have no gripe with us with these, because they can't use these gate systems. They can't, any of the grids that are going to come with us, they can't use anyway. So we'll feel the pressure a bit off. There are certain groups that are going to come in, though, because they need our help, because they realize the 3-way war situation is building in the falling set, and they genuinely want to set up the Christic Fall Center, because they want to be protected from that. And that's one of the things that we're going to be moved toward as indigos in different ways. And this is why we have always said, don't ignore everybody else's teachings. We have said that, yes, this set of groups teach Merkaba the wrong way. They teach this, yes, these ones are teaching this, but it's actually doing this. We've not said don't read their books, don't look at their teachings. It helps because you can speak a common language with other people from those systems that may be coming into the hosts. It helps to be able to speak their languages. At this point, you've developed your field strong enough where you don't have to worry about contaminating your fields by reading something on a page. If you remember that even when you're reading, you're taking in a signature, all right, we've talked about that briefly before, even if you're reading somebody else's material, you don't have to be afraid of it. You have the frequencies. Simply breathe your Maharic frequency just to clear it, and anything that's good will stick, and you can let it come in, and anything that's not will burn off before it sticks to you. It's going to be a time of reunion where we reach out just in loving ways to people of other walks of life, including the ones that may not. Well, just don't drop our names. Because that's one really good way to get people, like especially the New Age movement, to go, oh, them, right? And if you associate with us, they tend to not want to talk to you, right? Because they never forgave us for exposing Archangel Michael, really. But we're going to be asked to assist in a host for Galactic Federation, Ashtar Command, and a bunch of the ones that broke the Treaty of Altair way in the beginning. It's not a host to the garden because they can't go there anymore. Now, if they hadn't broke the Treaty of Altair in the beginning, none of us would be at this point right now. We wouldn't be worrying about the garden, and we all could have gone someplace much more slow but pleasant to fix things. But there are big hosting groups coming out of those groups because they want to learn the Christic way and the way of Christic fall. We will be helping them make their connection with the Hathars, and the Hathars will follow the direction of the Hathors of the hub councils. So it's kind of like United Nations of the universe happening again, where we're being ambassadors again. So I would just like to thank you for being here. The beloveds would like to thank you for just showing up. As that's one of the biggest things. It's about at least 60% of getting done what needs to be done is just showing up and then paying attention, and giving a little effort. So the work we're involved in is amazing, really. I look back and if I had known we were going here, I would have really thought twice about publishing that first book. I would have been terrified. Oh, God. I said, please get somebody bigger, older, wiser, and please. That's why they probably didn't show me then. So that's why sometimes, if you wonder, what's in my future? I want to see the end, the end thing that I'm aiming for, and you can't. You keep drawing blanks. You can't quite get what's this going to look like. Right? Maybe because what it's going to look like is so big and complex and amazing and wonderful, and you'll be able to handle it perfectly once you get there. But if yourself now at this frequency saw what you were dealing with, you'd freak right out and never get there. Right? Yeah, and that's what would have happened with this material if I had any clue. So anyway, we wish you a happy renewal year and a happy Starfire cycle. I hope we'll see you in Tenerife. I almost want to run away from Tenerife, not because I don't want to be there, but because I really wish somebody else would just give me the Mylars I'm supposed to use for this presentation. Because the things we talked about, just introduced in this workshop, I'm supposed to have the sequences down by then, where it's, I think, 5 days of workshop.
Not some.
No, but five days where we're going to have workshop time. And all those subjects on that itinerary, or not even itinerary, that list, have to be covered. So, anyway, we're looking forward to... It's only 5 weeks away. Don't tell me that. I don't know. I want to go and spend a week in the gym because I haven't been able to bother getting around to even doing my cardio for a week and a half or 2 weeks now. That's what happens. It's like we go in spurts. We still do the physical fitness to keep, so I can breathe. But when it comes into transmissions like this, there's no time in the day. We're getting the transmissions done. You can't do the other things. You're lucky if you get your laundry washed and your dishes washed. Right? You got to find a way to hook yourself up to the bicycle and do transmission at the same time. I bore myself to death. Anyway, I'll stop chattering. Is there anything you'd like to say before we depart for other spaces? No. See, we've got to drive back to Arc 12 now and literally, physically anchor it. So we're going to be... I just got a really funny image of the car, right, going back toward southern England with this big disc flying behind it like a balloon, really. Right? Right? That's why we have to drive it, isn't it?
One in front, one behind.
Yeah,
Push
we're the delivery team.
Yeah, push
Yeah, they're saying something like that. Right? Okay. Anyway, the Akasha Pond, there is one at the place that we have been leasing for the last 3 years, and yes, the Arc 12 space is the access point for it. It's not sitting right on it, but it's the access point. And they said there is a corresponding one in the inner Earth, which is the Eka levels. That was set up to run frequencies there. So we were directing the energy to both places, not just to the one on 3D here, but also to what it's connected to in the inner Eka. What's nice about this is part of the Eka itself is being preserved through this particular starfire process, whereas the entire thing won't fall. It needs a lot of repair, but it won't fall. The gates won't shatter like what was going to happen in just the starburst cycle. So there's a lot of good news, really. And it's like nothing's changed, but everything's changed again. And the biggest thing is Metatron is sulking. Not that I would want Metatron or anybody to have to sulk because they didn't get their way, but the wormholes are closing progressively, and the ones that are connected to what numbers as our gates go, they will close right before. But in the meantime, they'll try to drag anybody they can through those gates. They're trying to use a mente while they can access it to get as much head count as they can. So you will see great efforts of all sorts of different meditations and, do this to save the world stuff that they put out on their websites and that kind of stuff. That's all to harness you in, to lock you into a wave, right? I do suggest avoiding the buggy balls where they look like the upside down Tauran. Just know what it is and say, no, I think I'll take mine the other way up, thank you. And without the nasty little daisies of deaths all over it. Anyway, I'm going to stop now. When I'm tired, I just keep going, or some part of me does. So I'm going to stop because I will just keep doing that because I am tired. But have a lovely day and a lovely year. Let's have a great renewal year.
Absolutely.
And Starfire! Yay! You don't want to say anything?
I can.
You can?
I can.
Yeah, I'd just like you to know that transformation year is happening here. He's coming online with his contract this year. As far as he's been, they've been working with him, but this is the official one where that means you got to go public with it, right? Whatever it is at the end of that line. So this is going to be an exciting year.
That's another thing about the Bible. It was Az that took a tablet and went up the mountain. You definitely can't come. You definitely can't come. No, I'm not going to keep you very long because I think that because the things that in the parlance I was getting before we came, if there'd been time, there were things that we felt in the moment that we might want to talk to you about, but I don't think we want to talk about it anymore in the way it was being put together. I really just want to say to you that we all have oars in our little dinghy that we've used to row through life and get ourselves to where we are. Little devices, little things we carry around in our subconscious, little elements of aspects of ourselves that exist in other places that have kept us on the, not always the straight and narrow, but somewhere nearby. And one of the things that's worked for me is that I've tended to be not easily impressed. I just am not. And it's looked after me real good. And all I want to say to you is that you buggers impress the shit out of me. And that's it. It's been an interesting year, but let's have an even more interesting year. And you do that with my respect and admiration. And thank you.
Thank you, beloved. An Arc 7 cluster, here we come. drag it all back across the Atlantic again. I mean, that's a move.
Don't.
Yeah, we don't want to think about that, do we? Yeah. Well, it would be nice to visit the other side of the world for a while. I've missed America. I like England. I love England. England's lovely. But I miss America, too.
Sandwich at 3 paces, and you remind me of American blooming bacon. Ugh.
Bacon isn't America's specialty. No, it comes in tiny little strips with mostly fat. I think we call what you call bacon ham.
Yeah. You call what we call a lot of different things.
I know. It took us 5 years to figure out how to talk to each other because you think we speak the same language.
You say to an American girl, "I love you." She says, "What do you want?"
Well, that's all right. It seems to be.
It was a cheap shot.
It was a cheap shot. I got another one. Would you like it back?
Sure.
I was just kind of thinking that what I found in the communication was that, like, as an American, saying, like, can I help you? Yeah. You saying I have a problem? What's the problem? You know, it's like, no. I'm just trying to be nice. Yeah. That happens a lot.
You got any more examples?
No, I'm not going
That's
there.
very strange because they've normally got more than you have in anything.
That's only according to your assessment.
I'm just taking the P1SS.
I know, me too. It's really funny to look at the two cultures, and it's cool. You have to throw the Irish in there too, because like it's I mean it's all this wonderful thing. The Irish are lovely, and I don't know Canada culture, so I can't pick on that. So I only pick on things that I love and know a bit about. I love Ireland and I love England.
Probably.
And there's
intensely, manically well.
and that can be a bit intimidating to other people. So there's a lot of lovely things each side actually has to offer the other, and it's kind of funny when you think we're like Americans are English. Most of us. Well, some of us came from other. Now America is lovely. It has everybody from everywhere, from every planet in the universe at this point. Yeah. So it's lovely. It's been a lovely experience. I would just like to say this since we're getting ready to go back over on that side of the Atlantic. It's been a lovely experience to be a part of English culture and European culture, because English culture is more than just English culture. It has its Englishness, but it's part of a European culture that is really lovely. And there are certain things that I think Americans don't realize are there, and Americans don't realize they're missing, that are in the European culture. But at the same time, I can sit there and say, oh, I can't wait to go back there too, because there's some things that are just very American in mindset that are equally neat to be around and to be involved in. So it's a stalemate. They're both great, the European side and the American side, and there's really no sides there. There are indigos everywhere on this planet and in every country. And it's sad that some countries block our website so they can't find out what we're up to over here. Yeah, I won't mention names, but we've been officially blocked by certain countries. Not England or any of the, I won't go there.
No, not a second time, it won't work.
No. Anyway, bye. I can stop.
And if anybody feels motivated, the gym is just up there and it is really amazing. All the treadmills have touchscreen TVs.
Thank you, Lex. I think that was her debut. Next generation, like Star Trek, the next generation. Voyagers, the next generation. Heaven help us.